You are alone. The noise has stopped. The parties, the validation, the thrilling, urgent whispers in the dark, they have receded. And in their place, a silence has descended. A deeper, more profound silence than you ever anticipated. It is not the silence of peace. It is the silence of the auditorium after the play has ended. The stage is empty. The audience has gone home. And you are left standing there, costume still on, wondering what role you are to play now. The invitations grow fewer. The messages are of a different, more transactional nature. The gaze of others, once warm with possibility, now seems to assess, categorize, and pass over. And a question begins to form, in the dead of night, a question you've been running from for a decade. What was it all for? You feel a gathering storm. A biological clock is not just a cliché. It is a metaphysical drumbeat, growing louder, synchronized not with your career milestones or your travel photos, but with the ancient, unyielding rhythm of your own DNA. You are confronting the shadow of your past choices, and it whispers of depletion. This is not a moral indictment. It is a cosmological one. You have been living in one mode of being, the mode of infinite potential, of selection, of harvest. And that mode has an expiration date, set not by society, but by the brutal arithmetic of evolutionary time. The pain you feel is the collision of a modern fantasy with a Paleolithic reality. In this video, we will dissect the shocking, unchanging truth of what that collision produces. We will move beyond the platitudes and the political slogans, down through the strata of social pretense, into the bedrock of biological imperative and archetypal fate. This is the price of the feast, when the plates are cleared. To understand the present, you must first be exiled to the Pleistocene. Forget the concept of promiscuity as a social label. Strip away the judgment. See it instead as a strategy. A high-risk, high-reward reproductive strategy etched into the nervous system over millennia. For our ancestral mothers, the environment was lethal. Infant mortality was catastrophic. A single male provider could be killed by a predator, a fall, a conflict. To place all your genetic future, all your children, on the survival of one man was a terrible bet. Biology abhors a single point of failure. Thus, a dual strategy emerged in the feminine psyche, a deep archetypal circuit. We can call it the dual mating strategy. On one hand, the need for investment. This is the drive for stability, resources, protection, the provisioning male. The father who stays. This is long-term, cautious, and selective. On the other hand, the need for genetic fitness. This is the drive for superior genes, for immunocompetence, for traits that ensure offspring survival in a brutal world. This is often short-term, impulsive, and attracted to signals of dominance and vitality. These are not conscious choices. They are tidal forces within a woman's being. The first force seeks the king. The second is tempted by the warrior. The promiscuous pattern, the harvesting of attention, intimacy, and genetic material from multiple males, is at its root an ancient hedge against catastrophe. It is a biological portfolio diversification. It secures immediate resources and superior genetics from different sources, while obscuring paternity, which compels multiple men to potentially invest in her offspring. It is ruthless, brilliant, and effective in a world of scarcity and death. Her hypergamy, the instinct to mate laterally or upwards, is not vanity. It is a directive. Do not degrade the genetic trajectory of your lineage. Secure the best possible resources for your future children. Your primary alliance is not to any man, but to the unborn. This is the cold, evolutionary why. The romance, the connection, the love. These are the magnificent, conscious experiences that evolution drapes over the underlying machinery to ensure we engage with it. But the machinery itself is made of stone and blood. It cares for survival, proliferation, and genetic legacy. Nothing else. You have been acting out a million-year-old script, written in the language of hormones and neural incentives. You felt you were exploring your freedom, and in a sense you were. But it was the freedom of a fish to explore water, never comprehending the ocean's currents that carried it all along. The modern world told you it was just fun. just empowerment. Just you. Your biology had a different, far older, and far more serious agenda. And at 30, the first act of that ancient play concludes. The curtain falls. And backstage, the archetypes begin to change their costumes. Here lies the catastrophic error. The fatal misunderstanding. The modern world took this ancient, high-stakes survival software, crafted for the savannah and the tribal fire, and installed it into a world of digital superabundance, atomized individualism, and infinite, frictionless choice. It created a psychological and spiritual crisis of the highest order. The trap has three jaws. The first jaw, the illusion of the infinite harvest. On the ancestral plane, your social circle was 150 people. Your potential mates were perhaps a dozen. Your value is assessed on a holistic, human scale: your health, your fertility, your skill, your character, your kinship ties. Now you are thrown into the digital ocean. Dating apps present not a dozen, but thousands of warriors. The swipe is a parody of selection, a reduction of a human being to a single, marketable image. The algorithm feeds the most primal fragment of your psyche, the search for genetic fitness, for excitement, for the next best thing. You are biologically equipped to compare, but not to compare thousands. The result is neurological overload. The paradox of choice becomes a pathology. You move from selection to curation, from connection to consumption. You begin to commodify others, and in a terrible twist of fate, you commodify yourself. You are no longer a woman seeking a mate. You are a brand manager in the sexual marketplace, and the market is brutally efficient. It teaches you to maximize short-term returns, while the long-term capital, trust, intimacy, deep relational skill, depreciates and used. The second jaw, the betrayal of the biological clock. The modern narrative sold you a lie, that your career timeline and your biological timeline were parallel tracks. They are not. They are on a collision course. Your biology operates on a strict, non-negotiable schedule. The peak of your fertility is a summit you descend from in your late 20s. Your attractiveness, as dictated by the deep, unconscious male drive for signs of health and reproductive capacity, follows a similar, if slightly delayed, curve. Meanwhile, your career and personal autonomy are just ascending. The system told you to prioritize the ascent of autonomy. And so you did. You used the ancient short-term strategy, the harvesting of attention, the sampling of genetics in a long-term social vacuum. You were playing a Pleistocene game with no Pleistocene consequences. Until now. At 30, the consequences announce themselves. Not as a societal judgment, but as a visceral, internal shift. The whispers of your biology become shouts. The archetype of the mother, an immense, powerful, and demanding psychic force, stirs in the shadows. And she looks upon a landscape populated by transient warriors and kings who have learned to seek younger, less complicated consorts. The very strategy that felt like power becomes the source of a profound new vulnerability. This is the dark psychology of the modern condition. Society didn't just give you freedom. It weaponized your instinct against you. It convinced you that the pursuit of short-term dopamine hits, through validation, through conquests, through sexual novelty, was self-love. It was owning your desire. It framed the ancient, dangerous game of genetic sampling as a form of liberation. But this was a sleight of hand. A system that reduces individuals to consumers needs them to be restless, hungry, and perpetually dissatisfied. Your hypergamy, your capacity for comparison, your drive for a better mate, these were hijacked. They were no longer in service to your ultimate biological and spiritual purpose, to build a legacy. They were redirected to keep you consuming experiences, men, lifestyles, products. You were taught to confuse the map with the territory, the thrill of the chase for the substance of the capture, the attention of men for the devotion of a man. You were enlisted in a system that profits from your rootlessness, while it systematically dismantled the structures: stable marriages, multi-generational homes, communal responsibility, that once made the perilous journey of motherhood and partnership sustainable. So you stand at the cliff edge of 30. Behind you, a trail of ghosts, the potential partners you judged and discarded, whose presence now forms a silent jury. Before you, a fog. The old strategy has diminishing returns. The primal purpose it once served is now screaming for fulfillment, but the path to it seems overgrown, unfamiliar, and littered with the wreckage of modern advice. You're not crazy. You are not less than. You are a sophisticated ancient creature, trapped in a sterilized maze, following instincts that were meant to navigate a wild, meaningful world, and finding only curated dead ends.